I'm Dr. Katherine Putnam, and I am the Director of Research and Data Analytics at Brighton Girls School. Brighton Girls School is an independent K-12 school in Melbourne, Australia. The school has approximately 850 students enrolled from kindergarten to Year 12. The school is open entry and majority of students are from backgrounds of high socio-educational advantage. The Year 12 students who participated in this research study were all in my Year 12 chemistry class. These students are typically high performing and generally pursuing competitive tertiary pathways requiring high performance on standardised assessments. The COVID-19 pandemic saw an increase in assessment anxiety with a greater impact experienced by girls. I experienced this firsthand in my own classroom, where I observed my chemistry students experiencing heightened anxieties prior to assessments, and this often manifested as negative self-talk, where students would say things like, "I'm going to fail, I don't know anything, and I'm not good at chemistry." It was also a time where I had the highest number of students with special assessment arrangements, and this was relating to anxiety. The theme of the GARC research topic for 2022 to 2023 is Global Reset, New Opportunities for Educating Girls. For me, this was a really important opportunity to find the reset button by conducting research into how assessment anxiety in girls could be reduced. I definitely think there were positives from the COVID-19 pandemic in terms of education. One thing was that we saw an increase in reliance in online tools. A real positive was that students showed an ability to quickly adapt and navigate these new digital tools to support their online learning. Given the sudden shift to online learning, many schools resigned to rapidly converting curriculum to an online format with limited focus on purposeful pedagogical design. This provides opportunities to leverage on the skill set of our digital natives to introduce technologies that offer more than simply content delivery. A student's self-talk in the lead up to assessment is often reflective of their self-efficacy, or that belief about their capability to meet the challenges of the assessment and reach performance goals. Given that my students were engaging in negative self-talk in the lead up to assessments, it made me wonder whether this was an indicator that they had low self-efficacy and whether this was contributing to their assessment anxiety. There has been limited research into the relationship of self-talk and self-efficacy specific to girls. And this raises questions over whether targeting self-efficacy in the chemistry classroom will alter the way girls engage in self-talk and whether this has a potential to counter assessment anxiety in girls. Self-efficacy is not fixed, it's an acquirable belief. And it has been suggested that self-efficacy can be strengthened by metacognitive monitoring, where students are aware of their own thinking and take an active role in monitoring the progress of their thinking to further learning. Metacognitive monitoring can be supported by setting students small, achievable tasks where they can work towards achieving goals and monitoring progress. Given the potential of digital tools in the classroom, I was really keen to explore whether learning and teaching could evolve to develop digital tools that not only cover the curriculum, but develop these metacognitive skills. Cera software is a digital tool that supports an agile methodology, and it's been employed in many business sectors to revolutionise the way businesses visualise and monitor workflow. Given that metacognitive monitoring involves monitoring learning progress, it stands to reason that an agile methodology could be applied in an educational setting using the Cera software to create a platform where students can monitor their learning progress. This led to the development of my research question. Can assessment anxiety be reduced through the use of an agile metacognitive monitoring methodology in girls in a high school environment? This is a new phrase that I have developed based on a novel methodology I have specifically designed for this research. It's called Agile Metacognitive Monitoring because it uses Agile software and it's been set up in a way to support metacognitive monitoring. For this research, I've used a digital tool known as Cera that enables large projects to be broken down into smaller tasks and allocated to users. The software provides a user-friendly interface that has the benefit of clearly displaying tasks and allows for visualization of task progress and completion. I've adapted the Cera software to scaffold students through the process of metacognitive monitoring. By intentionally embedding small achievable tasks of increasing levels of cognitive complexity within Cera, students are empowered to take an active role in their learning, independently monitoring their progress through each level. Students required one lesson of intensive training prior to implementation of Cera because it was a new technology for students. Cera was used in place of more traditional homework. Students were assigned tasks with subtasks that contained questions targeting 4 different developmental levels of increasing cognitive complexity: remembering, understanding, analysing, and applying. Students could visualise both tasks and subtasks and edit them to include evidence. When a student deemed themselves competent at a particular developmental level, they move the subtask into the corresponding workflow column on the Cera board. Students could work towards increasing the depth of their understanding by adding evidence that supported their competency at levels of increasing cognitive complexity until the point where they deem themselves competent. An important part of metacognitive monitoring is that students have a critical awareness of their own thinking and learning. This software really supported this as students had to reflect on their understanding and physically move the subtasks based on their own assessment of their competency level. Students are aware of their own thinking, actively monitoring their progress. It also raises students' awareness of their level of understanding so that they can take the necessary steps to become competent at higher levels of cognitive complexity to further their thinking and learning. Prior to the use of the software, students found it difficult to articulate the way in which they monitor their learning progression. Many students just indicated that they attempt to keep track of it in their mind, and students were quoted as saying things like, "It's just kind of like a mental thing that sits back there," or things like, "It's not really anything I'm physically writing down, it's just mental." And this suggested to me that students don't actually actively monitor their learning progress. However, after the use of the Cera software, students had a clear understanding of how they were monitoring their learning, with 10 of 11 students loudly chorusing "Cera" when they were asked how they'd been monitoring their learning progression. This was also supported by the analytics in the software that showed that majority of students were actively completing tasks and that over time they were demonstrating competency at developmental levels of increasing cognitive complexity. The pie chart shows the proportion of students at each developmental level and shows that over time from day 10 to day 30, there are more students who identify themselves as competent, as shown by the increasing red segment from day 10 to day 30. Metacognitive monitoring requires students to be aware of their thinking and the depth of the knowledge as reflected in the development of the complexity of their thinking. The use of the Cera software allowed them to think about the complexity of their thinking in a way that they had not previously. Initially, students found it difficult to articulate the depth of their chemistry understanding, and initially when I asked students how they know the depth of their understanding, students made comments that concentrated on things they could do, such as not relying on notes or explaining concepts to other people. However, students didn't seem to have a clear understanding of the depth of their chemistry knowledge. Following the use of the software, students were able to classify the complexity of their thinking using terms such as remembering, analysing, applying. And one student's comment in particular described how the use of the Agile project management tool supported them to monitor their progress. This student said, I would say that using the Jira tasks gave you more confidence that you actually had quite a good understanding of whatever concept it was. So much so that you weren't just like remembering something, but you were actually able to apply it and show that there was like progression in your learning. Overall, using an Agile Metacognitive monitoring methodology provided students with a tangible way to monitor their learning progression. Despite observing students outwardly engaging in negative self-talk in the classroom prior to assessment, when students were surveyed at the beginning of this study, almost all of them reported engaging in positive self-talk prior to assessment. This seemed at odds to what I was observing in the classroom. However, a focus group revealed comments such as, "I knew that if I think negatively, it's going to change my performance. I just need to have happy thoughts." And another student saying, "I definitely get super anxious before all of the SACs, and I can notice that the immediate thought in my brain is very negative and a lot about my performance. However, I've tried to practice actively thinking more positively." It became evident that students often instinctively engage in negative self-talk and had to actively practice positive self-talk. While this may help to provide students with a bit of a confidence boost, it does not necessarily reflect how they feel about their capability. After engaging in metacognitive monitoring, students reported more genuine positive self-talk. And this was evidenced by a student who made the comment, "I think last time I was trying to be positive. I had prepared, but I don't think I understood the level of my understanding. However, this time I was aware of my level of competency. I feel like it was more genuine positive self-talk. Whereas last time it was a bit of negative and then trying to do a bit of positive self-talk to overcome that." The visible nature of student competency and progress on the Agile project management platform provided students with evidence to support self-efficacy. And this was highlighted by a student who stated, "With Cera, I knew there was something to back it up. I knew that I could do it if I put my mind to it, and I actually had that evidence." Although I was unable to identify a direct relationship between self-efficacy and self-talk, research has shown that there is a positive correlation between the two. Given that self-efficacy is based on one's belief of their own capacity to achieve, the evidence generated through metacognitive monitoring may have strengthened the student's self-efficacy, resulting in this more genuine positive self-talk that I observed. Students experienced a reduction in assessment anxiety when they were empowered to monitor their own learning progression with the Agile project management tool. Students rated how they were feeling using a visual facial anxiety scale. Initially, 7 out of 12 students had a rating of 7 or above, which is over double the reported assessment anxiety for girls. Despite this research being conducted after the COVID-19 pandemic, the high level of anxiety recorded suggested that the COVID-19 pandemic was a global stressor with psychological burdens that extended past COVID-19. Students showed a reduction in assessment anxiety after engaging in metacognitive monitoring, with only 2 of the 12 students having a rating of 7, with no students having a score above 7. In this research context, metacognitive monitoring was effective in reducing girls' assessment anxiety. Integration of the Agile project management tool Cera into a Year 12 chemistry classroom empowered students to engage in metacognitive monitoring. Cera was an effective online platform for senior chemistry students to actively monitoring their learning progress as they move tasks through levels of increasing cognitive complexity, which provided them with evidence of the depth of their chemistry understanding. This evidence was key to students transitioning to more genuine positive self-talk prior to assessment, and it suggested that students were developing greater levels of self-efficacy, leading to a decrease in assessment anxiety.